overboard this weekend and I bought a ton of witchy books, and I want to share with you guys the books that I got this weekend and also earlier this summer. When I was looking for a criteria of books that I wanted to read or wanted to study, I wanted to go into subjects that I hadn't really gotten to dive into before. So I looked for ceremonial magic as well as crystal magic, because I was actually obsessed with crystals when I was a kid. I used to go into stores and just look at the crystals. I wanted to be a geologist when I was a kid, and recently during this quarantine I started remembering how much I loved crystals and how much I wanted to know more about them. So I was looking for books like that, and of course for my magical symbols I needed some extra, information for certain things. So I wanted to look into books like that as well. So yeah, I'm gonna be sharing these books with you guys, and if you guys are interested in buying these, I will also put some links in the description box below for you to purchase these books as well. So let's get into it. So I'm gonna start off with this book, which is the Crystal book. It is a gem, pun intended. I found this in Barnes & Noble and it was in the bargain section, and I was like, it's probably not gonna be good, but I'll look at it anyways. I was pleasantly surprised. So as you see on the side, every crystal is color coded. So when you go to this section, we've got the orange crystals. When you go to the next section, we've got the greenish crystals. And it's great because it has the name of them, obviously. And then also it goes into a little bit of history of how they were used back in the day, what other names there were. And then also it gives you what it looks like when it's polished, as well as what it looks like when it's raw, which is great because they look very different. And also it gives you the form, the structure of it, the hardness of it in terms of the scale of hardness to lightness, and also the different magical properties as well. This book has so much information, and I love how it's color coded because I'm a visual person, and whenever I see crystal books, they don't really give you a map of how to remember the crystals. So it's okay, yeah, I'll see this crystal in this crystal book, and it'll give me a whole section for a crystal, and it goes on to a whole different other crystal which either doesn't have similar properties or isn't the same color. And so when you go through that, it doesn't really help you because you don't really remember what category it's in or anything like that. And this gives you a really good way for your mind to remember these crystals. Now I remember all of the brown crystals because they're all sectioned in one place. Now I remember all the red crystals because they're all sectioned in the same place, and so on and so forth. So it really helps you remember what these crystals are. And of course, like I said before, this isn't going to be the only crystal book I buy. Maybe it's one of the first crystal books I've bought, but I'm going to buy more crystals so I can also cross-reference the information, because you never know. Someone could have one wrong thing in their book and then you cross-reference it and you never know which one's right, which one's wrong. It's always important to do research. You can't just go from one book and say that's canon, that's completely right. You have to do as much research as you can. And with doing research, I might find that this crystal doesn't have all of the crystals that I thought it had. Maybe there's different variations of other crystals which look completely different from the crystals in this book, but they're the same crystal but a different variation. And if I see it in person, will I know? That's why you have to reference everything you can find, because one book is never going to have all of the information. But this is a good start if you want to buy crystals or if you want to learn more about crystals. Honestly, I've learned more about crystals from this book in the past weekend than I have in years of thinking about learning crystals and finding a crystal and saying, oh, I'm gonna look into that. This is the greatest reference book for crystals that I've found so far, and I think it would definitely help you. Next we have, I guess not so much as a magical book as a book about classical mythology. So this book is great because it does have picture references as well for some of the mythology in it, but this is classical Greek and Roman mythology. It just gives you all the information of who worshipped them back in the day and some of the myths behind some of the things that we know of them now. And yeah, I just think it's a really good start for understanding and learning classical mythology. So Classical Mythology from Gerber. This is a good book to start if you're interested in learning Greek and Roman mythology. This book, oh my god, I am so happy I got this book. I saw this in the bookstore and I just had to look at it. Obviously, I'm a symbol freak, so anything with symbols, anything with weird magical like symbols in it, like is going to catch my attention. So when I first looked at this book, obviously I was interested in the cover because it is bright and beautiful. But then when I opened it, I was pleasantly surprised by the fact that this author has so many different symbols for the constellations, the zodiac, the planets, the runes, the Ogham. It's great because just reading this book for like a second, I actually learned something from the runes, which I've been studying for years, that I didn't know. So this dives more into the younger and elder Futhark, but I studied the Anglo-Saxon Futhark, and I learned something about the elder Futhark that I hadn't actually read in another book. So this is really good for just cross-referencing those sort of things, like if you want to learn the runes, if you want to learn the Ogham and everything. But it also gives you like different symbols for the planets, like variations where like there was one for the 16th century, another for the 13th century, and another for a more modern version of it. It's like, oh, I always only see the one symbol, but now I know that there are other symbols involved and where they come from, because this book gives you so much information on that. Also, I've been studying the tree Ogham, and I only have like 1 or 2 books on that, so this is going to help me understand a little bit more about the divination and also understanding like how to cast them as well. What I like about this book is she also has magical alphabets in here as well, and this is the best description of magical alphabets that I've ever seen in any book. It has so much information on all of the lore behind the magical alphabets, and of course obviously like what alphabet it is and all of that stuff, where it came from, who invented it or discovered it, and so much more. This book is such an amazing addition to anyone looking to learn ancient symbols, and I am so excited that I found this. Just from seeing this, okay, the symbol for Neptune, and then this is another symbol for Neptune that was created like early on. And this is another symbol for Neptune that I've never seen before, but hey, you never know. If I ever end up reading an alchemical text, I might come across the symbol and think, what the hell is this? But this has the explanation and the description of what it is and where it comes from. It's so great. And what's cool about this book also is that it gives you like information on the constellations and the stars, and also gives you information on how to use them in magic, which I never really thought of before, being able to use the planets, obviously in planetary magic, but also using the stars and their symbols in order to bring in their magic as well. So this is really cool because it gives you a whole wide range of different symbols to use for your magic as well. Not just understanding the symbols, it's also how to use the symbols in magic, and what to add to them and what to take away, and how to use them in general. I'm so excited that I bought this. This is just like such a good addition to my library. Next we have Damien Eccles' Angels and Archangels, which I've been really interested in learning more from Damien because he has a really like intense story. He has a YouTube channel if you haven't heard of him, and he teaches people about like working with ceremonial magic and things like that. I've been interested in learning more about ceremonial magic, and I've been studying the Tree of Life and Kabbalah, and also like working with the angels and archangels as well as the tarot in Hermetic Kabbalah as well. And he has a lot of information on the angels that I've never been able to find in another work that actually is like comprehensive. So this is really great because he just gives you like his backstory as well as like all of the angels that were working with the Tree of Life, as well as like how to use them in rituals and things like that, and how to work with the angels, sorry, not use them, how to work with the angels in your magic as well, using the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram as well. And it has, of course, all of these symbols in it for their sigils and how to work with them just like in general in magic. This is such an interesting book, and I can't wait to fully read it. I think I'm gonna do a review of this book too once I finish it, because I think it's going to be a really good eye-opening book to start off with. I'm probably not necessarily going to be doing the rituals in it, but it's good to know the information behind the symbol, as well as knowing more about the Tree of Life and the archangels as well. If you are interested in learning more about the Kabbalah and the Tree of Life, I would definitely recommend like studying more books on the subject and not just going from one, obviously. I do have a book called The Aquarian Kabbalah that dives into Hermetic Kabbalah and working with the Tree of Life as well as the tarot and how they coincide. This is a good book to like give you more in-depth information on how to work with them in spiritual transformation as well. I think John Michael Greer has a book just like this about working with Hermetic Kabbalah that could be really good for you if you're interested in learning more about it. So yeah, Damien Eccles, Angels and Archangels. I'm so excited to dive into this, and I feel like it's just gonna give me like a really good sense of like how to work with the angels. So yeah, I'm excited. Secrets of the Universe in 100 Symbols. So this isn't necessarily like the witchiest book, but of course I am a symbol freak, like I said before, like I have said in a lot of my other videos. And this is just a cool book to have for like different ancient symbols that you've seen pretty much everywhere, or you've seen in like the History Channel or in like movies like The Mummy or something. And yeah, it just gives you all of these different symbols for any type of mythology, whether it's Greek, whether it's Roman, whether it's Egyptian or Middle Eastern. It gives you a lot of different symbols from different cultures, and it tells you more about them, where they come from, and it gives you a lot of information on them as well. A lot more than I would expect from a book like this. This is another book that I got from the bargain section at Barnes & Noble. Of course, I'll still link it below for you guys to check it out. But yeah, I love all the pictures and everything too. I love that it's so nice and colorful. It has so much information, and it just gets me interested in the subjects as well. It's just really fun. It's just one of those books where you're just like, ooh, I just want to see all the pretty pictures, but also what does it say about them, you know? So yeah, this is a fun book to buy for anyone interested in just like learning more about like ancient symbols from all over the world. So now I'm going to go into two books that I bought earlier this summer that I'm almost done with, and I'm going to give you guys a review of these once I'm fully done. This first book is The Complete Book of Astrology from Llewellyn. I really like this book because it gives you pretty much all of the information you need to know about the zodiac, as well as the planets, and how the zodiac is affected by the planets, and how the planets are affected by the zodiac when they're actually in them on the ecliptic. It's really interesting. It gives you all the symbols as well that's associated with them, as well as like the qualities, and it gives you a pretty good in-depth like view of each of the symbols. Whether or not they're in your sun sign, your moon, your Venus, as well as what they do when they're affected by the planets. It's really cool. It gives you also these references on celebrities and their birth charts as well, so that you can study the birth charts and understand them for yourself, and know exactly what affects who, where, in what degree, and how many retrogrades are in their chart and how that affects them as well. It's really cool that they have this. They have about like 50 of them, I think, and it just tells you so much information. And it tells you about the asteroids and some of the other stars that are affected by the zodiac as well. And I think it's really good for anyone interested in learning about astrology, as well as learning how to read birth charts and all of that. This is definitely a good book to start off with, and it's definitely a good book to have in your witchy collection as well. Last but not least, The Complete Book of Ceremonial Magic from Llewellyn. So this book has a bunch of different books by different authors all in one, and I was obviously drawn to this book because of all of the symbols in it. A symbol freak, I can't help myself. I'm sorry guys, it's probably annoying by now, but it has books on alchemy, ceremonial magic, as well as demonology, angelology, and so much more. It gives you information on like magical correspondences, planetary magic, and how to create sigils out of planetary chemias. I have a lot of qualms about this book though, because even though I say it gives you pretty much everything you need to know about ceremonial magic, there's still so much, like it's very basic. And there's still a lot of information that's either misinformation or like not enough on the subject for you to understand. And it can be a little dangerous for anyone beginning, because when you see the complete book of ceremonial magic, you think, okay, that's everything I need to know about ceremonial magic. But with ceremonial magic especially, like you can't just read one book and say that's it. Ceremonial magic is very extensive. It's ritualistic. You have to do things to a T. So there are some things in this book where like they're flat out wrong, or like a table is like completely off, like they didn't even pay attention in the editing, like where like a chemia for one planet is actually like the chemia for another planet, and it's like switched for some reason. So I definitely want to say like be careful with this book. I do have a lot of issues with it, but it's definitely a good starting point. I did learn a lot, but I also know that I have to cross-reference other books. One of the reasons why actually I bought Damien Eccles' book, because this gives you a little bit of information on angel magic, on Enochian magic, but I want to learn more. I need to learn a lot more, and that's why I need that corresponding book. So Although this book is very, very, very tempting to just say, I know everything about ceremonial magic because I got the complete guide, do more research and be careful because there is a lot of misinformation in this book, and it's a little disappointing because some of my favorite witchy authors are in this book. And John Michael Greer, of course, he knows what's up, he's good, but the planetary magic section, and I think there's another section in there, I just feel like there just needs to be a little bit more. So I'm gonna be doing a full review of this book once I fully finish it, which is probably gonna be soon, and I will let you guys know all of my issues with this book. But don't let that deter you from getting this book because it's definitely a good starting point for ceremonial magic. Just know that the information might not be completely right in every section. So, you've been warned. So yeah, that is my entire book collection that I bought for myself this summer. Let me know in the comments below if you guys plan on getting any of these books for yourself, and stay tuned for those videos that I mentioned of reviews of these books that I'm going to be making. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.